So now, Smilai, I'm going to ask you about a player that I know you like. A player that I know you like. Yeah, he's not had the best of times this season. He's been struggling for minutes. In fact, in the league, he's only been able to play 33 minutes so far this season. I'm talking about Taiwo Awoni. Awoni, we know what he has done for Nottingham Forest in the past. We know how he essentially saved them from going down in his first season there. But then, of course, he had this major injury that kept him out for some time. Chris Wood came into the side. And to be fair to Chris Wood has been doing well. He has been scoring goals. He has been impressive for Nottingham Forest. But when you look at Awoni, should we be worried about his Super Eagles spot, given the fact that a lot of strikers are doing well now? People are calling for other people. Should we be worried because he's on the bench for Nottingham Forest?
A good player cannot just become bad overnight. That
Mm.
is what people don't know. And this is the same player that scored 7 goals in 7 games for Nottingham Forest, and it was scored in 7 consecutive games. The first in their history. You know, matched with Adebayo and Mo Salah among one of the African greatest players. 7 goals in 7 games. You need to go and watch his game in Nottingham Forest for you to know that he's loved, well loved. That part of the country. For me, he had a major injury. I'm not like to you. And if you are very close to him, you know how bad that injury was. A lot of people didn't even know that he had a setback again when he came back. So in nights and different issues too came up that he has to actually work, he has to integrate into the team very well. Like you said, coming back from injury is not really easy. Depends on how bad that injury was. It was a major surgery. And I can tell you that that injury that he actually had, that was why even Cooper lost his job. Because I think that he was relying so much on that one and when that when he got injured, I think he knew that it was over before he was finally sacked and the guy brought in. In all fairness, too, to Wood, he has been doing well, but I won't lie to you. On a good day, Taiwo is a beast. He just needs to get that confidence back. He just needs to actually be fully fit and do all these things. He just need a run of games. It's like you start your engine and you call the engine to come and be playing 3 minutes. It's already charged. Just play him like good 30 minutes in those 2 games, then you see what can actually what bring you. So for me, I think the manager too, is not being fair, to him, in my opinion. But I just think that he's a guy that is not new to this situation. He is not a new. He's a guy that will always come back and take his spot. So if you remember his career very well, we know that this is just like something that will not actually even move many things. He's working hard behind the scene and he's ready to take his place.
Mm, mm. But you didn't answer the question that I asked you
Mm-hmm.
because I agree with you on everything you said,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm asking about Super Eagles.
Yeah.
So with people like Maja, Desas, Akor, everybody, what I'm saying is, should he be worried about his spots in the Super Eagles squad?
You
Because
know,
I agree with you that he's going to come back for Nottingham Forest, but Super Eagles, do you think he might lose his spots because he's not playing? What do you think?
you know, losing his spot, not being invited, is are two different things. So for example, now he can actually excuse himself. Don't forget that he played as this manager during the AFCON. That's the trust is there. But the
Mm,
issue is about losing his spot. I don't agree with that. And I will say one thing. We have different type of strikers. The two strikers we have that can also occupy defenders. So I think it was Tawa Awoniyi and Victor Osimhen. We have strikers that can actually roam about. So it depends on how you want to see it. In my own opinion, it depends on the coach, on what the coach actually wants to do. For example, now the coach used Victor Boniface in a different way in those 2 games against Rwanda and Benin Republic. So he brought in what's it called, Osime and everything. So it depends on how the coach want to play. But for me, if you want a guy that can actually occupy your defenders very well, it's between Victor Osime and Tawa Awoniyi. I don't think we have. I know we do respect to Josh Maja, and so on. but for Cyril Dessers, yeah. But I think if you want a physical presence, I can occupy defenders very well. You know that it's between those two guys.
mm. Okay, and what I would say about this is I think it is rather unfortunate that he's not getting minutes for Nottingham Forest. Like we said, Chris Wood is doing well, but I also feel like the coach can definitely give him more minutes than giving him 3 minutes here, playing him 90 minutes is not even coming on at all. And unfortunately for them, they're out of the Carabao Cup, so he's not even going to get those cup minutes that we might have said okay he'll play in the cup. FA Cup doesn't start until January. So it's really just the Premier League for them now. And we know what he has done. We know what he can do. So we need to see Taiwo Awoniyi playing more games at club level. Um, and on the Super Eagles front, him losing his spot, I think is not something that would happen. And the reason I say this is because I just don't think that the other strikers are on his level. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe in October, Eguavon might decide maybe okay, Desas is scoring a lot of goals. Maybe I want to call Desas and I will drop Taiwo. It is possible, it is something that the coach might decide to do. But I think that even if he doesn't make the next squad, knowing the quality that he has, knowing the kind of player that he is, he would eventually make his way back into the team once he gets his games going, once he gets his goals going again. I also think that, sometimes when you're judging players, it's a bit tricky because obviously he's playing in the Premier League, he's not getting that many minutes. If Awoni was playing in Scotland, for example, now, if he don't already score 15 goals this season, so when you're comparing two different levels that are far off each other and you're saying, this guy is scoring week in, week out, it's like, yeah, he is, but Mm, if somebody else was there, there's the same way when people talk about like Arokodare, for example. I scored 6 goals. Like, okay, fine, but if you put this other striker in Belgium, how many goals do you think they would have scored? You cannot just directly extrapolate, but I just think that even if he doesn't make maybe the next squad, I trust Taiwo Awoniyi enough. I've seen enough quality from him. I've watched him play enough times at Union Berlin, at Nottingham Forest, to know that this kind of quality player is going to make his way back into the team. That's assuming he even gets dropped for one of the international call-ups, But I'm really hoping that Espirito Santo gives him more minutes. I'm not wishing bad for anybody, so I'm not going to say Chris Wood should get injured, but we know that Chris Wood tends, even though Taiwo too gets his injuries, but Chris Wood also gets his own share of injuries. And it's easier to get injured when you are playing versus when you're not playing. So I feel like Taiwo's minutes would eventually come. Obviously, I just hope that the minutes come sooner rather than later so
Mm.
that this boy can show us what he can do. And when Taiwo starts firing, the goals go there. They say money na water. For goals na water. you
Yeah.
know. So that's just it on Taiwo, and I hope that he gets more minutes in the coming games. Okay, another player in a similar situation. This one is a player that you like. In fact, he's a player that I really like. I really like this guy. He made his debut. Fantastic game. Fantastic game. Played the second game, another good game. Not as fantastic as the debut, but good game. Then played his third game, not so good in the third game. And then from there, in the last two matches, they've put him on the bench with seat belts. They did not even say, okay, come and play 1 minute, come and play 2 minutes. I'm talking about the young player known as Fisayo Dele Bashir. Now we know the quality that this boy has, a recent addition to the Super Eagles squad. We know how good he is, we know the impact that he can have. But he's now a bench boy. I think it's fair to say that he's now become a bench boy because if they don't play you for 2 games in a row, I find it hard to say, oh, you're still a starting 11 player. Even if maybe, of course, teams can always rest a player, but for example, Arsenal are not going to put Saka on the bench for 2 games in a row and Saka does not play a single minute. Man City is not going to put Haaland on the bench for 2 straight games with no minutes if he's fit. The same way Chelsea cannot sit, even Jackson no go sit down for 2 straight matches if he's fully fit. So should we be worried about his own Super Eagles spot as well? What do you think about this, Milai? Dele
No,
Bashir.
no. I think when he came back from the international window, that is when all these ones actually was started. He's a guy that when I saw him start that first game, I was so surprised. I didn't know that he's going to integrate straight away in, but you know, you don't expect he's coming from Turkey. You don't expect him to just be busting the midfield like that in Lazio, and that's why they're not even doing well. They're not even doing well. So the coach might still have to reconsider his decision and bring him back. But for national team, I think it's a different animal, in the national team.
Mm,
Fantastic player. It's a player we have been looking out for. Forget about him not playing, in the club. I think we still need him in the national team. So I don't think because I don't think his national team spot should be should actually what should be up for grabs. I just think that he just needs when he comes back, more training, more game, he'll be back to his full fitness again, to sharpness again. I don't think his national team spots too should be up for grabs because even in the last game that I think it was in the and Alex Iwobi that actually was played in the first game before. Yes,
yeah.
so before they actually was, But for me, I think he's a very good player, and
Mm,
I think he should still be invited. He's very good for Nigeria.
mm. And I will say I agree with you. He's like one of those players that even though he's not playing for his club, I feel like his spot. I don't want to say anybody has a guaranteed spot in the Super Eagles, but he's probably our only real attacking midfielder.
Hmm.
So even though he's not playing, it's hard for me to say, oh, his spot should be given to somebody else because who is that person? You want to give his spot to another defensive midfielder, you know, or do you want to give his spot to a winger? Then who will play from the middle and try to create opportunities? Who will drive the ball through the middle for us? So that's the reason why I say I would love for him to play. I would love for him to be playing more starting games for Lazio, but I also don't think that his Super Eagles position is under threat as of yet. Obviously, if this problem persists and he's just absolutely not playing, then it's something that we might have to discuss and we might reconsider moving forward. But I think that at the moment, it's not really something that I'm bothered about. I think he's going to play more games for Lazio as time goes on. And again, we don't really have his archetype are plenty in the Super Eagles that we can just say, oh, don't call him up, call somebody else. With like an Awoni, for example, people can say, oh, don't call Awoni because there's Desas, there's Maja, there's Akpom, there's all these sorts of people that people think can do a job. But for the role that Fisadeli Bashiru is playing in the Super Eagles right now, you know, we don't really have other players like that can do that job. I remember when they brought Ibrahim Olawoyin, it was kind of obvious that the quality was not as high as we would have loved it to be. So I think Dele Bashiru is going to retain his spot in the Super Eagles. I just really do want to see him playing more minutes, playing more games for Lazio because a lot of people have invested in his stocks. A lot of people have put their money into into Dele Bashiru stocks, put their what's the word, their bragging rights, everything. Believe so much in him, and I don't think that having one bad game is enough for the coach to just absolutely do away with him. And like you said, it's not like they are winning all the matches, so you cannot even say, oh, they are doing well without him. So it'll be hard for him to come back. They just lost their last game against Fiorentina. They narrowly beat Venezia in the other game, So I believe still that his time will, he will get his minutes in his club. And yeah, I think he's not somebody that has to be worried about his Super Eagles position yet. I'll just say yet because you never know what can happen in football. All of a sudden now, maybe one other midfielder from somewhere will just rise up, just come they score goals and everything. And that's the way football is. Football moves on very quickly, but yeah, I think Dele Bashiru should be all right for now. Okay, let's talk about another player. Let's talk about another player. Still talking about players that maybe have to be or shouldn't be in the Super Eagles. I'm going to talk about another player. I had mentioned it when we are talking about Awoni. He's a striker. He's on form. He's scoring goals. People are clamoring for him. Some people are not. I'm talking about Cyriel Dessers. So Cyriel Dessers again over the weekend scored two more goals for Rangers. So Smith, like, I know we've spoken about this on previous episodes before. Do you think Cyriel Dessers should get the Super Eagles recall in October?
Is that is actually what's big, This has played under Jose Pacero, and in all honesty, I don't think it's actually what it's disappointed because I think he did its best in those two friendly games they played in America.
Mm,
To say with his current form now, I don't know who they can actually drop for him
mm,
because it's very difficult to actually make a case for him because Scottish League, in all honesty, it's not one of the best leagues in Europe. So, and sometimes when I see Scottish League, it's like I'm watching some part of League One's like Championship relegation
No,
team.
yeah, and just not to cut you off, but I remember I spoke with Ayo Bile
Mm-hmm,
when he was still playing in Scotland then,
mm-hmm.
and he was telling me he's like, yeah, like the Scottish League, the best teams in Scotland, the Rangers, the Celtics, they will be like mid-table championship teams.
Yes,
That's what he told me while he was playing in Scotland. So the
mm,
the quality in Scotland is not that high. But
it's
go
not
on.
high. Yes, so that is why it's very hard to judge. For example, now if I'm clamoring for Cyriel, I should be talking about Arokodare too.
Mm,
I should be talking about him too. So for me, I just think that if you want Super Eagles call up, it might be difficult to say. I think that need to move.
mm. Desas needs to move. Okay. For me, I'll just say I wouldn't be upset if they called him up, but I'm not going to come and be clamoring for him to be called up because of the reasons that we already said. He's scoring goals in Scotland, but it's not the toughest league in the world. It's not a very high level competition. Again, scoring 10 goals in Scotland is almost like scoring one goal in England. So, the way it feels sometimes. So, will he be able to translate that at the high level for Nigeria? Who knows? Of course, he has scored for Nigeria in the past. He has also had games that people were not impressed with him. As far as him moving, I don't think Desas is going to get any move to any bigger team from here. I think it's probably going to be Rangers is probably going to be the last good club that he plays for. If he's leaving Rangers, then he's maybe going back to Belgium or going back to Netherlands or something, not a very top level. So let's see what happens. I'm not going to clamor for him to get called up. I'm also not going to be too upset if they call him up. We'll see what he can do. But I think the two strikers that are sure are Osimhen and Boniface. And then everybody else is fighting for that third spot. So whoever they call, to be fair, will probably accept it. And you mentioned somebody when we were talking that, oh, if you're clamoring for Desas, you should be clamoring for him as well. Tolu Arokodare. Tolu Arokodare, of course, has scored 6 goals in 8 games so far this season. And I won't lie, it kind of surprised me. But a lot of people started saying, hey, we should call this boy up. I was surprised when I saw it. People were saying, hey, we should call this boy up. So that's why I included it here. Smith, like, do you think Tolu Arokodare is a Super Eagles contender yet?
I don't think so. I think it needs to be consistent. I think if we can keep this form to the end of the season, I think it should be called up. But for now, I think he's just trying to find his feet in Belgium. I think he should continue doing well. If he can keep this before the playoffs, they normally have these playoffs towards the end of the season. If he can do this thing for the regular season, score like one goal in every 2 games or every game or things like that, if he can actually to do that the way Paul Odanshu did, I think he should also be invited to the national team. I think I'm muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying, and to answer that question, do I think that Toro Kodare is a Super Eagles contender yet? The answer to that is no. I don't think he stands a chance quite yet. At this point, I would still call Awoni ahead of him. I would still call, honestly, even Desas ahead of him. Dare I say, I would even still call Ian Acho ahead of him. He's scoring goals in Belgium. I'm glad to see that, but I need to see more. I watch his game sometimes, even if I don't watch the game live. I go back and I watch his actions after the game. The goals that he's scoring are not class goals, are not quality goals. With all due respect to him, like the goal that he scored in their last game, the ball drops in the box, somebody is trying to clear it, then the ball hits your knee and it goes in. You know, that's not a goal that is making me go, wow, call this boy up. And fortunately or unfortunately for Nigerians and for Nigerian fans, a lot of people don't watch matches, a lot of people don't watch games. So once they just see the stats, oh, he scored, oh, call him up, things like that. He's scoring a lot of tappings, he's scoring a lot of headers, and he's scoring a lot of clumsy goals. Again, a goal is a goal is a goal. As long as it goes into the back of the net, it's a goal. So I'm not trying to knock him, I'm not trying to play down what he's doing, but I would just say we need to see a lot more. We need, like you said, we need to see that consistency. Can he play 30 games and score 20 goals?
Mhm.
Then we'll say, okay, no, we really actually have to give this guy a chance. But right now, just based off of the 8 games of the season that he has scored 6 goals. I'm not going to get carried away. I know he's a young player, he's developing. I'm not even going to talk about what he did not do in France. I'm not going to talk about what he did not do in Germany. I'm not going to talk about that, but other than Latvia, this is the first time that we are really seeing him trying to even be anywhere near a consistent level. His last season wasn't like this, so he's growing into his own. But we need to see more of it. Let's see how he continues to grow. And if he does well, if he can hit these marks that we're talking about, he'll probably even get a move in the summer. And then playing in a bigger league, he will have a better chance of making a Super Eagles team. But my response to anybody that is clamoring for Arokodare to get caught up now is calm down, calm down. Give the boy time. Let him keep developing. Let him keep scoring goals. And then at the end of the season or towards the end of the season, we can reassess the situation. But right now, the Super Eagles have a plethora of strikers that are doing well. In fact, Anako Adams will still be ahead of him at this point. So let's not jump the gun. Let's not jump the gun and get too carried away. Congratulations, Arokodare. 6 goals in 8 games is a fine, fine, fine output. But I think we need to see a lot more before we start saying bring this guy to the Super Eagles. Okay, man, lots of players. I think there's one more player that I would talk about with respect to potentially being in the Super Eagles. And I saw somebody in the comments that already mentioned him. This is a guy that has not been capped for the Super Eagles at all. In fact, a lot of people did not even know that he was Nigerian until recently. And of course, he scored a goal against Barcelona that made him go into the news, and then a lot of people started talking about him. I'm talking about George Ilenikehna. Young boy, 18 years old. A lot of people say, oh, he's French, but he has been proudly repping Nigeria since he moved to AS Monaco. Even AS Monaco, that you would think because they are a French team, maybe they would even be pushing for him to play for France. They've been championing him as a Nigerian, they've been hailing him as a Nigerian. They are trying to use him to even get clout from the Nigerians on social media, things like that. And a lot of people have been saying, call him up, cap him so that he cannot switch to France. Call him up. This one, that one. So Smith, like, let me ask you about George Ilenikehna. Do you think after his goal and assist in one week, goal against Barcelona, assist against I think it was Le Havre, should he be capped by the Super Eagles ASAP? What do you think?
Thank you for that question. If you can argue that Arokodare should be capped for Nigeria, I think he did better than Arokodare when he was in Antwerp in Belgium. So, and that was his first season in Belgium. He got a move after. This boy moved to AS Monaco ahead of Inter Milan because he wanted to progress. One thing you cannot deny about George is that he's a talent. And he's a boy that is growing. He's a boy that is improving his game. He might be 18, but he's a boy with a big heart. He's not shy to show what he can do. He can play any position around the front line. And he's someone that is very decisive when it matters most. So I like that type of player. People say that called up, why not? I'm not saying you should come and start. But some people get called up without them. You say they go and share the team up. Those people sharing the team up in the bench on the bench, they say that they're sharing the team up. So there's also the man in Spain. Why can't you just give him that spot? Just to come and see how Super Eagles actually would look like. Give him sense of belonging. Let him know that we Nigerians too were also watching him. I'm not saying you come and bet Osimhen, Boniface, Awoni. I'm not saying that. Just let him come and learn from those guys. We've seen these practicals work before. Rio Ferdinand was invited in 1996 to England team. We know that he will not play. When you have players like Tony Adams and everything, he will not play. But he went there to learn. 6 years after, he became the leader in that backline for England. The same thing with Ronaldo de Lima in 1994. So for me, I think that it's not coming to Super Eagles to take the spot. It's coming to learn from the current African Player of the Year. It's coming to learn from players like Taiwo Awoni. It's coming to learn from players like Amaka's husband, Victor Boniface. It's coming to learn from them. So, in my opinion, I think that you should be called up to come and learn from them. And if you are not fast, France might look for it. They might dangle some things in front of him and they call it to the 121s. Then that is over again.
Okay, Smith, let me ask you a question. When you reference players like Rio Ferdinand that were called up earlier. Maybe players like Theo Walcott. I remember when Walcott was
Yeah.
called up to the England squad some years for that World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
As a youngster.
Mm-hmm.
These are players that at the time they looked at them, the coaches looked at them, the countries looked at them as these guys have the potential to be the superstars for us in the
Yeah.
future.
Mm-hmm.
Walcott had a good career, but I mean, he wasn't ever the superstar. But like
Mm-hmm.
with Rio Ferdinand, for example, we know how he became a key player in the
Yeah.
English defense.
Yeah.
So with everything that you've seen from George Ilenikehna, with everything that
Mm-hmm.
you've seen in his game, do you look at him and say, man, after Victor or after the two Victors, this guy could be the next big thing? Do you see that in him?
This guy, sooner than later, eh? This guy plays for Nigeria. This guy will go be one of the mainstay in national team. You will see. This guy is full of potential. See, this guy, you when you see a player that can deliver, you will know. You will know. Don't forget, this guy is coming in ahead of Falani Balogun. Is it Falani Balogun? The guy that
Yeah,
the former
the
Arsenal guy.
USA striker.
USA,
Yeah.
hey, it's a USA striker now. It's not a Nigerian player, so it's a USA striker. So see, just give him time. They will soon sell Mbolo. Is it Mbolo? We'll call him the guy from this is
Brilliant yeah.
yeah, Mbolo. Yeah, this guy is full of potential, and I've never seen a talent like this at 18 for Nigeria in a while.
Mm,
Victor Osimhen wasn't as good as it at 18. Victor Boniface wasn't as good like this at 18.
mm.
So I've never seen 18-year-old Nigerian like this in a while. So if you are seeing one like this, don't don't mess with him.
I like the points. I like the points that you make about the level that he's already playing at
Mm-hmm.
the age that he is.
Yes.
I would agree with you. Osimhen wasn't this good at 18.
Mm-hmm.
Boniface wasn't this good at 18. Awoni wasn't this good at 18.
Mm-hmm.
Alcor wasn't this good at 18. None of these players were as good as
Mm-hmm.
George Ilenikehna is currently is, when they were his age.
Mm-hmm.
What I would definitely say is that I think we should capture him. That one, I agree with everybody that is saying it. See, call this boy up, give him 5 minutes at the end, just for the fans to clap for him to just run around and break a sweat. Let us know that he has played for Nigeria. And you might not call him in the next squad. You might not call him, depending on how he's performing, depending on how other players are performing. But I think when you have a talent like this, a player with very, very high potential that is already playing in a top five league at 18, that is already scoring goals in the UEFA Champions League against a Barcelona side that is doing really well this season at 18, you cannot allow such a talent to slip through your fingers. This is not the case of Ebereze that we are trying to convince. It's not the case of Olise that we're trying to convince. This is a boy that is already proudly Nigerian,
Mm-hmm.
born in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
wants to play for Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be realistic. He has options.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not wait until France now start tempting him. Then
Mm-hmm.
he's now really, really considering and saying, I can play with Mbappe. I can play with Kamavinga. I can play with Chouameni. All these things. Go to the World Cup, play Euros. Before he starts getting all those temptations, cap him now. Just cap him. Let him know that he has played for Nigeria, and whatever happens in the future happens. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
will say. I know that it's hard for me to say, oh, he's better than Awoni, or oh, he's better than all these other strikers that we have. But talent wise, what he's doing at his current age, other strikers were not doing this when they were 18 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
please, the NFF, Ibrahim Gusso, Osne Guavon, anybody else that is involved in decision making, that is involved in calling players up, whether na Labadia or na Senfiet or na anybody way one coach, call this boy up, play him 5 minutes. Let's get it off our mind, because I cannot tell you how sad I will be if we lose this kind of talent that we already have in our hands. If we allow him to slip out of our hands and play for somebody else, it would be extremely disappointing. So that one I will say, please call George Ilenikehna up, even if it's
And
just for these games.
yeah, and I'm even seeing something. I'm even hearing that they're talking about Sam Omoridion. In my own opinion, I think George Ilenikehna is the big thing. With due respect to Sam Omoridion, for me, I think George.
Omar Rodion should go and play on a 23.
I think Ilenikhena is a rig, and the guy is not shy to be Nigerian. Like, even when he scored for Monaco, they will put Eagle there. Our Eagle
Yes.
scored. So go to anywhere registered is Nigerian. I don't know. Maybe he's parenting. I don't know, but he's guy that we should be proud to actually what have in our mix.
Yeah, we should be proud to have a talent like that, and hopefully he can continue to do well for us. But yeah, Omar Young, after I just finished winning Olympic medal with Spain, he should go and play on a 23 first before we'll revisit his case in the future. We don't have his time right now. But yes, shout out to George Ilenikehna, of course, wishing him all the best. We'll keep on tracking him. We'll keep on seeing how he does for his side, and hopefully, he can have a fantastic season. Maybe score like 15 goals, 20 goals in all competitions. I think that could be a good return for him at 18. That would be a fantastic return. A lot of players at 18 years old are still playing in the reserve team, still trying to find their way up, and for him to already be playing in the first team, it is definitely something to be proud of. Okay,